Alright guys, welcome back to Formula 1 news. The Belgian Grand Prix is finally here and rumours coming out of the paddock that indeed Charles Leclerc will take an entirely new power unit for this weekend's Grand Prix. That means a back of the grid start on Sunday. If other teams don't follow suit, will this end Leclerc's attempted fight back before it's really even begun? Very much interested to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Loads of new subs yesterday and plenty to discuss today. First of all, one more thing on the Riccardo front, saying that, yes, officially confirming his intention to still compete in Formula 1. I think this is relatively clear. Now, look, whether another team gives him a spot, obviously the McLaren thing hasn't worked out. The pay situation, I'm sure, will be a discussion to be had there because Alpine are also considering Mick Schumacher. If Haas decide to get rid of him, there's other drivers on the cards as well. I believe even maybe Williams and Haas have both spoken to Riccardo. So, look, there will be potentially seats out there for Riccardo. Whether it will be an Alpine or not, who knows? And also, does Riccardo want to go to a Haas or a Williams? That's a question I suppose that he shall answer. If the opportunities there arise as we might expect them to. This also on Alonso real quick, because I thought this is pretty funny, honestly, that he told everyone in the leadership team and even his own engineers at Alpine that he was going to leave, but didn't even tell Otmar, right, the actual team principal, right? So it just goes to show what he thinks about Otmar and the way that team is managed internally. Like, I think even Alonso went on to say that his performance was constantly being scrutinized internally because it seems like from his perspective he felt like they were looking for a reason to get rid of him and saying, you know, Alonso's getting older and older, like, you know, we've got to move on from this guy at some point. Alonso obviously wasn't happy with that, decides to leave and get out of there, and apparently this I thought was kind of remarkable because, I mean, look, the meme is Alonso will keep on driving until he has to get the walking stick out, but even Mike Crack confirms from the Aston Martin side that apparently he will see out the 5-year plan. So Aston Martin have a 5-year plan to get to a point where they can compete for championships. And I mean, look, he reckons that Alonso's going to be there for the entirety of those 5 years. He's already 41, I believe, so he'll be 46 at the end of this. That'd be kind of remarkable if that indeed does happen. And even this I thought was interesting from Alonso, right? This kind of implying again why he left Alpine and that maybe the more like the more upward trajectory potential that Aston Martin have than Alpine. Yes, Alpine might be the best car at the moment compared to, well, comparing the two of them, and they might well still be the best car for the next couple of seasons. But in the long term, Alonso does believe that Aston Martin have more upside potential. He says, look, in Formula 1 or any sport, if you don't win, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're 4th or 9th or 13th. You're either first or you're not winning. So he'd prefer to take the risk on Aston Martin that does have more budget and maybe potential in the future than an Alpine car that, yes, might be relatively decent at the moment, but is never going to be a front runner. He believes that Aston Martin, with the resources and the commitment that they've made to improvement, might have more potential than that, right? So some more interesting statements there from Alonso. This also just to mention, because we did see that Mick Schumacher followed Alpine CEO Lauren Rossi on Instagram and it went on to say, look, okay, yeah, good job noticing that, but I actually follow every team boss, so there's nothing to read into. But I mean, yeah, I suppose we'll see about that, given it was rather recent that this did indeed occur. Also, this to mention, talking of Alpine, there will be no French Grand Prix next year. Monaco, Spa still in doubt. We believe Spa will be on the calendar next year at the very least because Kyle Army is not going to come in until 2024 in South Africa, so Spa we believe will be around one more season. The French Grand Prix, though, that's not going to happen next year. There is some talk actually about maybe a Nice street race that they're trying to propose, maybe to try and make Monaco agree to their terms. We'll see how that one goes. But I mean, yeah, no French Grand Prix. We kind of expected it, right? It was going to make way, but it's kind of unfortunate because a pretty good circuit, all things considered, especially compared to some of the other ones that are coming onto the calendar rather quickly as it presently stands. Let's talk Charles Leclerc then and Ferrari. He says, people had asked him, okay, what's his thought process going into the latter half of the season? Can he still win the championship? He says, look, it's a very difficult challenge, but he hasn't given up hope quite yet, which is fair enough. But after this weekend, it may well be not mathematically impossible, but near enough, right? Because as it stands, the 80-point deficit to Verstappen is massive. Charles Leclerc can win 3 races in a row, and Verstappen can have 3 DNFs in a row, and he's still going to be leading the championship, right? Which just shows, like, you know, it's incredibly unlikely this turnaround can happen. It is possible that Leclerc could go through, win every race from now to the end of the season, but the reality is, with Ferrari being Ferrari, that's probably not going to happen, especially because of the grid penalties that do indeed seem to be inbound. Both grid penalties that there are currently rumours of coming out of the Ferrari camp. Firstly, from Mick Schumacher, who will get the upgrade package at Spa, but he will apparently be taking a new Ferrari power unit, which will result in a grid penalty. Interesting just to note, because I think Günther Steiner effectively has made a challenge to Schumacher to say, look, get points in the triple header, and if you don't, don't, then we're going to get rid of you. He was effectively saying like, look, we need more points out of you, and if we don't, we're not going to re-sign you a new deal. And of course, you know, they've got to consider who their driver's going to be. They can't wait too long. These races are going to be crucial for Mick Schumacher's future at Haas, and well, obviously for this race, he's probably going to start right to the back of the grid, if indeed this is true, that he will take an entirely new power unit above and beyond his supply. Now, other drivers will have to do a similar thing, and of course, well, we could see many teams actually do this, but for now, the only rumours are with regard to Ferrari power unit on the Haas, and also in the Ferrari itself of Charles Leclerc. Now, next week, I believe, after the Belgian Grand Prix is when the freeze comes through for engine development and like an ERS and hybrid technology development for the next 4 years, I think. So we might see a lot of teams bringing new, effectively upgraded engines to the upcoming races, and seemingly Ferrari are doing that here for Charles Leclerc. This is, of course, a pretty big deal because now Red Bull might decide, look, let's not take any penalties here. Let's try and maximize our performance, guarantee the championship, really, because if Charles Leclerc starts from the back, like where did he was, what, 19th on the grid back in Canada because he had the engine failure, had to get a new engine there, and of course the engine failures, this is why they have the knock-on effect. It's not just you lose the 25 points of crashing out of the lead or not crashing out of the lead necessarily, even though that did happen in France, but in, for example, Baku or in Spain, right, leading the Grand Prix, the engine blows up, that costs you 25 points, but it also costs you more points down the line because you then have to start for the back of the grid getting a new engine, right, which is going to cost you a penalty other than beyond your allowance, which is only 3 ICEs, and you know, the other parts as well have similar allowances for the season, and it makes sense if you're taking an entirely new power unit just to, you know, get new everything and start from the back of the grid, which is just how it works. But yeah, new battery, new MGU-K. Now, look, this could be very powerful for Charles Leclerc, but as I was kind of trying to say, I think was he P5 in the ends in Canada, I think, or I think it's something like that, right? He made a decent recovery drive, but and got some decent points, but of course Verstappen ended up winning that race and extending the lead that he had established at the time. So yeah, that's the thing really, that maybe Red Bull just decide, okay, we could have taken some penalties here, let's just not do it, maximize the points, and then effectively just have a dominant championship lead. Now, of course, Ferrari don't really want to let both of their drivers start from the back. We don't know, it's not been confirmed yet. The teams don't confirm things like this on a Thursday. They usually wait for a Friday. But the rumours coming out from Giuliano De Chesa here are pretty valid most of the time to indicate that yes, indeed, updated hybrid system, new MGU-K, a more advanced battery and a fresh power unit should be fantastic for him and Ferrari, as long as, well, maybe it'll be more reliable as well than his previous versions, but it would mean he's going to start from the back of the grid. Now, of course, they're probably not going to want to do this for both cars at the same time, because while Sainz probably will also need to take a penalty at some point, such as this, like if they do both of them on the same weekends, both Ferraris starting from the back, they interfere with each other's progress through the field, like they allow the Red Bulls and the Mercedes to get out front, it might not be ideal. So probably they're just going to do Charles Leclerc's engine, but obviously if Verstappen was to win and Charles wasn't to get that many points this weekend, of course, like Spa is definitely a track where overtaking is possible, especially with a new fresh power unit, all this, you know, upgraded stuff they've got on their car. So could still be a good weekend. We saw Verstappen come from 10th back to win the Hungarian Grand Prix, but obviously not the ideal start that Leclerc will be looking for if indeed this is the case. And rumour here from Fastest Pit Stop from his perspective that, yeah, most likely not to will Red Bull take engine penalties, implying that more than likely Red Bull are going to leave it as it is. And I mean, look, it makes sense, right? If Ferrari are going to take a penalty, then even though Red Bull probably will need to, they might say, look, let's take our penalties instead in Monza and maybe, you know, give the win there to Ferrari or Mercedes, depending on how quick they are. But by that point, the championship should be even more signed, sealed and delivered than it already is. So yeah, what do you guys think about this? Are Ferrari right to choose Leclerc to do this too rather than Sainz? Because, you know, it is an interesting one. If let's say Leclerc starts at the back of the grid, Verstappen wins the race, and Leclerc fights back to, you know, 5th or something along those lines, like his championship lead is already just effectively unassailable at that point. So maybe the confidence in Charles Leclerc is not necessarily there. I would have wondered whether it's better to maybe give the penalty here to Sainz and wait a little bit on Leclerc, just so maybe he can get some confidence, clawing back some points. But, you know, as it is, it's looking unlikely, unless, of course, Red Bull follow suit, as they might do in all fairness. This just to mention, because there was some talk about the fact that Ferrari had brought a new rear wing. Now, I think even having said that, this is seemingly the one people are saying that they were using in Baku, which, so I don't really think it's actually a brand new rear wing at all, but still, it is interesting because obviously Spa are a very varied track. You definitely need some good straight line speeds, but it is interesting really how teams are developing towards generally lower downforce rear wings. As their floor and other aero parts start to get more efficient, they can afford lower downforce on the wings, which increase increases straight line speed and all that good stuff. And Ferrari's only going to need it if they want to defend against the Red Bulls, but Leclerc might not even be in a battle with the Red Bulls if this penalty indeed comes through as we presently expect it to. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you are new as always, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.